And this week in our final market prospects for the season, we focus on agricultural research. And joining us in studio is Dr. Richard Gray, agricultural economist with the University of Saskatchewan. Great to have you on Farmgate.
Thanks, Bob.
Right off the top then, what are the historical rates of return to agricultural research in Canada and abroad? And can we expect similar returns in the future?
Well, the evidence suggests really very, very high rates of return. There's been several hundred international studies, and they find basically $20 in discounted benefits for every dollar that's invested, so a 20-to-1 benefit-cost ratio. Studies done in Western Canada and Canada show very similar results, so the rates of return are very high. It's a good investment. Looking forward, we've got this issue of feeding the growing population in the world, food security, as well as some breakthroughs in genomics that should actually keep those rates of return high for some time in the future.
So if the rates of return are high, why don't we invest more in those ag research, and how do we create more investment in such research then?
Well, one of the problems is a lot of the research is not excludable, which means that once the knowledge is out there, people can use it and not have to pay for it. And so that means there's a limited private incentive to do a lot of this research. It only applies in some crops. And that leaves it up to the public and producer groups to fund research, and public dollars are scarce these days, and private levies are often, or producer levies are often refundable and at fairly low levels. So there isn't a great pool of dollars out there to do agricultural research, certainly not enough.
Well, the yield gains in canola through private research are fairly high. How do we get those gains going and distribute them more in the future, and how large are those gains then?
Well, the private canola industry is investing a lot in research. They invest about 1% of the gross income, gross canola value into research. And if you apply an 18-to-1 benefit-cost ratio, you get a large stream of benefits being created by this research. The reason they're able to make those investments is because canola is a hybrid crop, which means that producers have to buy seed each year. And the companies knowing this and they're producing something valuable are charging a lot for seed. It's about 9% or 10% of the value of canola. The producers pay that for seed. Companies take that and they reinvest about 1% of that in research, and that creates the benefits that are shared between the seed companies because of their seed profits and producers because of higher yields.
In pulse crops, it's very similar. The rates of return are pretty high through producer-funded research. How effective has this been in returning benefits to farmers then?
It's been very beneficial as well. The funding for pulses comes through the Pulse Growers Checkoff, which is a 1% non-refundable levy. And the pulse growers invest that research through the Crop Development Center, producing higher yielding varieties, and they produced a lot of benefits over time. And unlike the canola industry, there isn't additional royalties to pay, so those benefits flow to producers downstream.
Now, there's been lots of discussion about funding wheat research. What has been the focus of those discussions?
Well, wheat research is sort of up in the air. In some sense, wheat and barley research, to some extent, is a poor sister to the other two. It lacks funding. It's relied on public research up till now to a large extent, and some levy-funded research, but the levy rates have tended to be very low. So with the end of the Canadian Wheat Board and changes to the WGRF, 3 provincial wheat commissions are now being set up, one in Alberta, one in Saskatchewan, one in Manitoba. So those are being set up. The Minister of Agriculture says that Agriculture Canada is going to get out of commercial wheat breeding eventually, which is a big change. And he's also indicated that by the end of 2013, he's going to pass some plant breeders' rights legislation, which is going to, if you like, increase the ability for private firms to earn revenue from selling varieties. So there's a lot at play in wheat right now. I think it's really important that producers get involved, and there will be meetings about these commissions, et cetera, and they need to get involved so they can have a voice in how that industry is going to develop over time.
You're an agricultural economist. What do ag economists bring to the table with ag research?
Well, what economists do is they study the economy and how it works, and through their study they're able to determine what works and what doesn't work, if you like, by providing some evidence about this institution seems to produce a lot of benefits. That one doesn't work very well. It's hindering advancement, that type of thing. So by providing that evidence, both industry leaders and governments are able to make better decisions about how policies and how investment should be made in the future. And the second level, I guess, is in our training. We actually train a large number of students now that go work in the agribusiness fields, go back and work on farms, go work in government, and we're giving those students the tools to actually make decisions better, and as well as that background knowledge that they need about what works and what doesn't work. So I think it's often hard to connect all the dots because sometimes you don't know what actually brings about a policy change, but good ideas are generally uptaken by, and evidence is generally used in these processes, and that leads to better policies, better investment decisions, and a healthier economy in the long run.
Well, ag research is critical to agriculture, so thank you very much for coming on Farmgate.
Great, thank you.
Okay, we'll take a break again. We're back in 2 minutes. Please stay with us.
Market Prospects, delivering timely information and education to prairie farmers for over 25 years. Market Prospects is brought to you by the University of Saskatchewan's Department of Bioresource Policy, Business and Economics, and these sponsors. Log on to marketprospects.usask.ca to view past programs and for information on upcoming programs.